I'm Andre J, and today I am going to talk to you about some of the fun updates happening with the video wave system. Usually during these episodes, I do stuff where I do like tutorial kind of things. I guess tutorials might be a strong word. I sort of work through like fun and interesting ideas in various digital video synthesis environments. But today I'm taking a break because I want to show everyone what's coming up with the new Video Waves update. And also just to let y'all know, next Tuesday I will be taking a vacation, and I'm not positive if I will be back the Tuesday after that. So it might be a little bit of a break here, but I'll definitely be back on schedule by the end of September. But yeah, so Video Waves 2.5 is the name of this update. And starting right off the bat, you can see that one new thing I've added. Oh yeah, I should probably pull up the the Twitch chat so I can see if anybody's asking questions. Also, I really need to give this computer an overhaul because it's moving pretty slow. My laptop is moving faster than these days. I probably need to put a solid state drive on here and delete 1 million things. Yeah, here I am. Here's my Twitch thing is opening up right now. You can do some Twitch feedback for a moment while everything loads up. If I really want to like slow everything down. Here we go. This might be a familiar sight from anybody who was involved in the old what do you call it? The world's largest feedback loop. Pop this out. Alright. Yes, I was not very prepared for this one because I was working really hard on the updates. Alright. Now I'm ready to actually start. Okay, updates. You can see that one that is started right off the bat, you can see that I have the hypercube on here. So if you go down to global, we have tetrahedron and hypercube as options. You can select them both too. Wow, that totally didn't load, did it? Alright. Let me try this one more time. So yeah, and the hypercube has a little bit of a different color palette than the tetrahedron. Tried to make it a little bit more on like the soft and pastel side of things, just for fun. Trying to multitask here. Some other fun things with this new update. Pretty much everything is a modulator now. So I'm adding LFOs for everything. So you can see down here in the global section, I've got oscillators for blur. Another fun thing is I've gone over the blur and sharpen algorithms and changed them up a lot. So they're far more abstracted and far more useful for a wide range of things. So you can use them as blur and as sharpen, but you can also use them to do this kind of stuff you see happening right here. Let me turn up sharpen LFO as well. So they won't. Sharpen doesn't do the RGB distortion anymore, but to make up for it, I put the RGB distortion back into blur, and you can do blur and sharpen both negative and positive, which means that essentially a negative value for the blur makes it sharpen, and a negative value for the sharpen makes it blur, but they both work in kind of opposing ways. And it was kind of neat to have this effect here, like where I've got the blur and the sharpen oscillating like this. I thought it was kind of neat to have them sort of going back and forth and doing this kind of crazy stuff. Let's see if I can actually get my chat to pop out now. Pop out chat. Load this shit up. Alright, here we are. If you said anything in the chat before this, I wasn't able to read it, but now I can hear what's going on. Oh yeah, but yeah, let me go into, so we got these LFOs for this stuff, but let me just turn them off and we can go into a bit more detail about what is actually going on with them. Just turn this down to 0. Alright, so if you remember from the previous version of Video Waves, when you sharpen things, sharpen was really, really wonky, and it did a lot of sort of RGB distortion stuff. It's still pretty wonky, but a bit easier to get a hand on, and it will do it does no RGB distortion anymore. So I turn up sharpen, and as always, the sharpen kind of makes things go dark a bit. So I turn up this sharpen boost, and then we get this kind of thing happening. So this is pretty amazing. We can control the radius of this, and I want to show you how it looks when we do control the radius with an LFO. So let's crank this up all the way. Yeah, well, maybe I forgot to install this one properly. Kind of looks like it. Yeah, I've been working on this a lot. Yeah, that one wasn't working quite right. You can see what happens when we change the radius over here. You get chunkier and chunkier reaction diffusion lines. Turn it up a lot and it just seems to pull the noise. Like there's, I don't know, there shouldn't even be like random noise filling in here. So that's something neat that happens with this sharpen. It looks really, really nice with good rotation. So I'm an FBO over here. And let me set up an oscillating rotation. Oh, that was a little bit much. There we go. That was more or less what I was looking for. And if I try adding some blur while this is happening. So for low values of blur, we've got basically between 0 and 1, we get more or less standard kind of blur. Once we start going overboard on that, then we will start to get some distortion. So that's sort of what I mean by a little bit more control, is you can have things sort of function as they're intended to function, and then you can also have them doing crazy stuff as well. And then we can also control the radius of the blur as well. So that'll give you this kind of stuff, where you see that like patchworky sort of reaction diffusion things happening. That'll be from that. It'll be stop free running rotation and just set up static rotate. And another nice thing I put in here, go down to here and you can clear the frame buffer. I still haven't set up a full control reset for everything because I kind of have to, like, as far as I can tell, I think I just have to like set it up where I just write one thing for every single parameter on here, and there's a lot of friggin' parameters, and I'm adding more and more every day, so we'll see if that actually pans out or not. I might not get to it. So these are just kind of like fun little things. There's bigger things I'm building up to here. So you'll be excited to see what the larger things that will happen will be. But I'm just going to go through some of the tinier stuff first. So we've got that happening. We've got blur and we've got sharpen. I've changed up the pixelization a bunch too. So if we turn on pixelate, and then we can change pixel scale in X and Y directions. Meaning you can have sort of like rectangles instead of just regular old pixels. I mean, they were pretty much always rectangles to begin with. But that. We also have LFOs for the pixels. I haven't quite fully tested these. I've just added all of these LFOs for the pixels on everything today. I haven't fully tested them. I'm not sure about this through zero modulation. I might try to make all of these. I might have to do something where I make certain LFOs unipolar and bipolar and whatnot. But for now, I'm going to test it out with this. It's kind of neat when they go through zero like that sometimes. And then we start doing this overboard on the pixel mix. I accidentally set the pixel mix value to incredibly high over here when I was testing things out, and it was doing some pretty bonkers stuff. So I'm going to try leaving it absurdly high for a bit and see how that plays out. I feel like a lot of people have been asking me to make sort of like glitch devices out of these. And, you know, glitching kind of like... The thing about glitching is, like, so when you're working with glitch video, you're usually, like, circuit bending something or mistreating a video signal. In the digital world, you can't really... That concept doesn't really, like, exactly make sense. In terms of you're working on, like, signal processing and you're designing your own program from the bottom up. There's not really any glitches, you know? Like, they're just, like, everything you do is intentional. But you can do things that sort of feel glitchy, so I guess that's where it's at. But yeah, playing around with these pixely things and the overboard, going way over on these like mixed things is definitely like, it's in the realm of like glitch feeling, so I guess glitch aesthetic is what people usually say. Alright, so that's another tiny little thing. What else do I have? Oh yeah, for the inputs, I added some LFOs on the inputs as well. Dun-dun. Oh yeah, that's NDI. We'll get to NDI later. Alright, here I am. Let me get the old... Turn off the hypercube for a moment. See ya, hypercube. So... Here's me right here. That's an interesting line happening right down the middle there. Another thing we can do is I can modulate this thing, your inputs. So just hue, saturation, and brightness for now, but this will do kind of a lot in terms of like glitchy feeling stuff as well. So, take this input, I can do some crazy stuff. I can pixelate, oh no, I'm not camera 1, I'm camera 2 for whatever reason. So there's me. Oh, I'm going to need to fix this GL clamping thing happening over here. And I can go down and I can modulate the pixel size. And right here, this is already looking like some pretty, like, ridiculous glitchy stuff happening. And something I haven't tried yet is doing camera feedback with all these modulations. So I'm going to do that right now, because it's always good to test things out. So... probably maybe a little too noisy for this camera feedback setup, but you can kind of see what's going on here, like what some of the potentials are. I mean, it definitely has potential to be like totally grungy, hideous noise, which this kind of is. But I'm usually like, I feel pretty good about things that are like grungy, hideous noise. Because if you have the ability to do really dumb things in a program, that sort of means that you've got like a really wide open field for working in. And I'm always a big fan of giving people the opportunity to like do really like ridiculous out of bounds like nonsense like this, because that's sort of like where I feel like creativity tends to win. Creativity just sort of exists on like the edge of like really ridiculous stuff like this. I'm gonna leave that right there. All right, but sort of the biggest and craziest thing about the video waves update is going to be texture modulation. And by texture modulation, I mean any video input that you can feed it, and you can now feed it through NDI, meaning you can do screen grabs on any platform. I'm going to reset that because obviously I need to have some sort of a reset switch, so I'll probably just end up putting one in, and maybe make this end up taking another couple of days. But so NDI is like a screen grab program. So I use this thing called NDI scan converter, and I selected this VLC thing over here. The VLC thing is another like thing of video waves, so that'll be silly. I can go up here, and NDI is just a source. If I grab NDI, we can see that pops up right over here. And I can change the scale of this, of course. This one scales a little bit differently than the other ones. So I wanted to make sure the NDI was centered for preserving aspect ratios and stuff. There we go. Got NDI coming in. And then I'll show you what I mean by using a video as a modulator. So now that we've got this set up, let's go over to frame buffer 0. Oh yeah. Let's take this in. So this will be camera 2. Actually, think about this for a second. Channel 2 will be NDI. Channel 1 will be this camera over here. There, so I can do a little bit more to control what's going on. Change scale. There, scaled up. Alright, so let me pull in some feedback. There we go, we got most of that coming in. Let's get some more even. There we go. Auto exposure. OU auto exposure. Also, I do have a hue shifting, a hue shifting light on. All right. So over here, you'll see this little menu that says text mod. You'll be able to select channel 1 or channel 2 for texture mod. And whatever I have up here selected in channel 2, which is NDI, the brightness of that video, I'll be able to dial that in to control any of these parameters that pop up that say text mod in front of them. So, for example, I can say text mod X through channel 2. And the brightness of whatever's coming through the NDI right now, which is what's on channel 2, will be controlling the X displacement. And then we'll add a little bit to this Y. And then we add a little bit to the Z. And there, you can sort of see what's going on with using textures as modulators. And if I go back over here, so did I do everything positive over there? Let me go to this area and set everything a little bit negative, and notice this seems to like give like the greatest definition to things is when you have these things set to negative and the other ones set to positive. I'm not sure if I can figure out a better way to do that. I think this is the best way to do it right now because it sort of gives like more control over the whole thing. But if I'll experiment with a couple of things and see what ends up making the most sense. Yeah, here is really where it sort of turns into some next level shit. And you can see we can pretty much we can get control of just about everything. What can we do? We cannot control the delay amount. Oh wait, these were not text all of these down just a little bit. Go over to text mod and turn them up. So that'll add. Yeah. So yeah, that is, in a nutshell, what we're going to be able to do with pretty much any kind of a video input. And the fun thing about this, too, about grabbing from the channels instead of the sources, so we'll only be able to do this on video waves because it's already got like a channel processor and a mixer to begin with. But whatever I do over here to channel 2 will change how the it'll change the values. So I can change the brightness values, make them more extreme. I can basically do EQ and gain staging on the video with the proc amp stuff over here before I feed it into as a modulator. So it gives me just that much more control over the video reactive stuff. Or I can do things like turn on the LFO. And that'll just sort of turn on and off, like sort of smoothly move on and off, like how the texture is affecting things. Not on and off, it'll be amplifying, you know, attenuverting the signal. Another thing, if I pixelate it, nope, NDI, pixelate. So if I pixelate it, then that will pixelate the way it affects things. The pixelization is happening. Can I pronounce pixelation? Pixelation? I always keep saying pixelization, I think. You can see that there's pixels happening in the control thing over here. So you can use the pixel effects as sort of like a part of this whole thing. So if I go over here and start to modulate this stuff, then that'll modulate how pixely the things go into here. Yeah, basically the biggest goal is just to have a fuck ton of modulation, modulate everything, and creating just like the most open system I could for this really like, you know, confusing and bulky, ridiculous thing I've got going on here. So I've got some very bright input coming in right now. Yeah, this is the input. You can see this is from another tutorial video that I did. I realized I don't really have like too many, I don't have a diversity of video sources on this computer. Which I should try to like fix before I do another one of these very specific things where I need an external video source. But yeah, so that's more or less the nifty things about video waves. So I'm going to close out of this one. And next up, no, I'm not trying to open this. And let me show you what's going on with artificial life. So artificial life, some of you might be familiar with this one through the Raspberry Pi version that I sell for the Video Synthesis Ecosphere RPi. So what I'm going to try to do is bring a boot of everything from the Video System Ecosphere RPi to the desktop. And then while I'm doing so, I'm going to figure out, do some fun little optimization things, and usually in the course of doing this, I figure out some sort of a way to like bring it back into the Raspberry Pi once. This whole process is sort of like a part of my update schedule for the Raspberry Pis, and also these will be most likely a part of a next-gen system I'm working on, hopefully that will be up for pre-orders in November. But yeah, next gen. Camera source coming in here. Yeah, so this is a video oscillator system. Can't remember if I have selectable video inputs on this. I don't. Yeah, where I'm at on this, I can do feedback. So this is another feedback-centered video synthesis system, but this is, instead of working on like the direct video feedback that Video Waves does, this is based more on signal-based feedback. This is running as video oscillators that modify other video oscillators. It used to be black and white only, but I added some color into these zones. And as you should be able to expect, there's a ridiculous amount of LFOs for everything. So we can modulate the color as we're working. Really funny thing I have on here, so you have pulse width modulation, and then you can modulate the modulation of the pulse width modulation, so like PWM2, I know where that comes from. Yeah, we have pulse width modulation for all of the wave shapes. We get sine, square, saw, ramp, and I will get smooth noise happening in here as well too. Let's see how this looks without the camera, without the internal feedback. There we go. So pulse width modulation is coming from over here. So if I change this rate, that should change how this works. We do a frequency mod over here. Run. I'll be right back. Please enjoy the soothing colors and shapes until I return. Alright, I'm back. So I just want to do a real short intro to what exactly is artificial life. So it lets you use oscillators to modulate other oscillators. Basically what that means is you can do really crazy stuff with a really small system. So do PM. PM is coming from this oscillator. So if I change this frequency, we can see that changes this whole shape of everything. Modulate it, and then we get this kind of a thing happening. Ring modulation, RM/AM it's like ring mod or amp mod depending on the amplitude of your source. So you can see if I do that, we get that going on, and you can see if I do that, we get that going on. So technically this is ring mod, this is amp mod. Though I've been thinking about it and I'm not really sure if ring mod and amp mod mean the same thing when your signals are unipolar, because I'll have to work the math on it. It definitely does different sorts of things when you have unipolar signals, whether you're doing the ring mod version or the amp mod version, but I don't really know what it means to like preserve the fundamental frequency when you're talking about visual synthesis. But yeah, wow, this is pretty creamy. The other fun thing that I'm not going to go into too much detail on it, but something that basically this whole setup is ideal for is, so you saw that video waves, you can take incoming video and use that as modulators. So you can think of artificial life as being just a fully devoted set of video oscillators for video waves. So you can use this both as a source in and also as a way to modulate the feedback. So just think about for a second what it would look like to have this modulating video feedback. And I'll need to set things up a little bit better. Maybe for my next one of these videos, I'll be able to like do a more prepared demo of that. Yeah, so this is using phase modulation and ring modulation. I can also go down here and I can modulate the modulating oscillator. Let me grab over here and do some more PM. Then do some rate mod with this one. Let's do some rate mod over here too. You can change the angles of all of these as well. We can set things up to be free rolling. We can have radial oscillators. So yeah, that's just a real quick look at artificial life. And next up, I'm going to show you what's going on with Spectral Mesh, the online, the desktop version. Probably not going to make an online version of Spectral Mesh. Where you at? Oh, here it is. So let's start this one running. Stop this one. And yeah, if you have any questions, now is probably a good time. I think I'm only doing 5 or 10 more minutes because I'm tired. Alright. Hi. Here I am being spectrally meshed. Mesh has all the fun stuff you might remember from the Raspberry Pi version, but in a way jacked up version. You can do all this kind of stuff, do it some pretty crazy amounts. Oscillators. We have a couple more, how many more wave shapes? I think just one more wave shape, because we had sine, square, ramp, and noise for the other ones. So just added saw and ramp. It seems kind of like superficial, but it's pretty easy to add in, so why the heck not? Yeah, you can see this one gets really, really fluid in its zones. Another thing that's changed from this version to the previous version is you can attenuate the pulse, the phase modulation and the ring modulation from one oscillator to another. What that means is, let me say I turn on OSC PMY and OSC RMY, go down to the Y oscillator. Say I have this turned up a lot. I can mute this so that it'll only work as, it'll only be a modulating oscillator for this one. And then if I have this cranked up all the way, you can see if I set this to 0, then we're not really modulating along that. But as I turn this up, we get more and more of the Y oscillator coming in. Ooh, that's fast. Oh yeah, and then something I have not tried yet, which I should try right now, is, so you can take NDI input with this. Let me go over to NDI scan converter. Let me grab this window and set that as the source. So we want to have probably this one, yeah. Slow y'all down a bit. tried this earlier. Do I still have the invert thing on here? Yeah, I do. Here we go. So you can see that NDI as a source, it's a bit more distorted than Siphon was. Well, Siphon was distorted too, just in a different sort of a way. Yeah, NDI is a bit more pixely. I'm pretty cool with that. But yeah, so that's just a tiny look at what's happening with some of the video waves updates. And if you have any questions or recommendations, definitely give me a shout out over on the Facebook Video Waves group or over at scanlines.xyz with the Video Waves tag. Those are the places I check for Video Waves forums. So we have one Facebook forum for everyone who's still on Facebook, and then slowly migrating my way to using more and more of Scanlines for things. So I'm just not going to be responding as often to the Facebook thing as time goes on, because I don't like to spend time on Facebook. So yeah, if you wanna get faster answers, the Scanlines forum will be the better place to ask for things. But yeah, thanks a bunch. Have fun. I know I'm not going to be here for a couple more weeks, but I do have a couple of really exciting things to show y'alls in Hydra, so I can't wait until we can get back into some Hydra zones. Yeah, in the meanwhile, you can check out Olivia Jack made a bunch of really amazing and probably far more helpful than mine videos on how to play around with camera inputs on Hydra, and those are on the Culture Hub website. So yeah, they're on YouTube too, but I think they want you to go to the Culture Hub website too. So you should check out Culture Hub as well. All right. Thanks a bunch, and have fun, and I'll see y'all in a couple of weeks.